Hi, friends. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for following. And again, thank you for comments that you share. And I hope that you'll share this page with people you think will benefit from it. Today, I wanted to talk about the kinds of trauma recovery I've been through and how they have helped me. The reason why I'm going to share this, obviously, this is specific to me. It's my personal story. But my hope is that in sharing this, it will, something might stand out to you as a possible opportunity for you and a style of help or support that might help you. As you may already know, I am a survivor of DV. And when I say survivor, that's not even an adequate term for what it is. I spent just about 5 months in a horrible relationship where I was held captive in my own home. I was physically harmed. My life was threatened in car-related situations where I thought we were going to be run off the road. I was strangled multiple times, threatened with weapons, etc. So verbally abused, psychologically, mentally, emotionally. So just to give you an idea, it was the final thing. It was this opportunity to where for the first time ever, I was able to get outside of my house and there were actually people out and about, and I was able to not really get away, but people observed what happened. I had proof, and I was able to keep him out of my life for good thereafter. So, as you can imagine, a lot of things transpired. If you're one of those survivors, your brain might suddenly go to specific things that you've been through. I was talking with my mom today about how I feel that I've really begun to have significant recovery from trauma. One day I was jogging up my stairs. Actually, I like to run up the stairs. That's just a thing I do. So I'm running up the stairs, and I had a flash of a memory of a time when I had to run up the stairs to try to save my life. And a year ago, if I had had that memory, I probably would have needed to stop in my tracks. I might have struggled to breathe. I might have felt a sense of sadness, depression, fear for several days. Or I probably would have reached out to friends and family saying, like, please pray for me or talk to me and let me come over because I'm not okay. But this particular time, it came into my mind as a very distant memory. Something that I knew happened, I knew I experienced, but it didn't hurt. It didn't stop me in my tracks. And I thought to myself, oh, that was really weird that came up. Oh, yeah, I mean, that happens to me. Wow. And it isn't as if I had forgotten about it. It's something that's pretty deep in my memory, but it didn't hurt. How is that possible? I hear people talk about being triggered with little things and it immediately, like, they crumble and fall apart. I've been there. I've had those crumbling, falling apart moments. But why didn't this affect me in the way that it usually had, or how it probably could, should, would? And that is as a result of some of the things that I've been doing to process the past and to put it to rest. So there are different things. One thing, and I want you to look it up if you're interested. I'll put it in the notes. There's a thing called Splankna. Now, I am not a teacher of this. I am a receiver of this kind of care. It's really interesting if you're a person that believes in God and God's ability to know things about you that you don't know about yourself. This is a really unique and interesting way of recovery. The premise is that you have trauma and pain locked in your body. in stress areas related to the type of thing that happened. When it occurred, your body like either pushed it aside and sort of compartmentalized it, but it held it in certain spots in your body. So this is a sort of muscle testing that occurs. They'll like muscle test you, and it's like, oh, I'm seeing that there is pent up anger in your lower back and in your neck. So they'll like have you press like your neck, and then you're going to press your lower back and close your eyes. And as you're pressing those pressure points, they're like, I just want you to think about that word, anger. And as you're closing your eyes and thinking, usually a memory, well, for me, a memory would come up, a specific, clear, recognizable memory. And I would be like, I had this memory. Here's what it is. And then the Splankna counselor would sort of say, okay, well, let's like work through what's connected with those feelings and those emotions. And let's see, we're going to do some work on that. So we do some processing. And at some point towards that, in that situation, you're going to do some tapping and forgiving. So for instance, let's just say the other day I was actually doing tapping, and it was related to a friendship that had really hurt me. It caused me to lose confidence in myself and in my ability to help others. And typically, like you'll use these fingers. So one of the reasons why this works is that you're using this hand and this hand while you're processing a memory, and you're touching certain fingers based off of the type of forgiveness and healing that you're going for. I can tell you I rarely remember which finger is which. So you're going to say the forgiveness statement that you come up with, saying it 3 times, touching the specific finger, and then at the end, you tap right here, and you just sort of like let it go. And I'm telling you, 100% works. Now, for me, if I don't feel words are true, I refuse to say them. I want to say things that I believe or that I'm empowered to say. So in this particular forgiveness thing that I was working on, I had already forgiven this person and said forgiveness multiple times, but it just wouldn't go away. So what I realized is the real issue was that I needed permission to reject their pressure to change me. And their pressure was that if I didn't lead just like them, then I was a bad person. And in fact, me being myself showed that I was a bad leader, because I wasn't doing it right. So I said, tap, tap, tap. I was like, I reject your style of leadership. 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 And whoosh, it all fell off my shoulders. It's incredible. And I've been trying to work on this for years, and finally I addressed this particular issue. So with Splankna, it takes, say, 3 to 5 sessions on a specific issue. You usually tell them, here's the thing that I'm hoping to work on. But then there's a lot of prayer involved and asking God to sort of show that person clarity for the past. It feels a bit safe because you're not actually operating in a triggered memory. It's like just, I don't know, it's a little bit different. There's another style of healing and transformation that I like. It's called Formative Prayer. I was looking to see if I actually have the paper book, but I don't. Again, this is typically going to be for people who are believers in God. However, counselors use visualization all of the time to help us process things in our mind in a fashion that feels more safe, so it doesn't feel overwhelming and scary. So in this particular kind of thing, typically the person leading you in formational prayer is going to have you close your eyes, and first of all, visualize a space where you feel completely safe. It can be a real place. It can be an imagined place. I remember once someone saying, oh, it's my grandmother's kitchen. Another, for myself, it's like me in my kayak, laying out in the sun, floating on the water, and just chill. So you would close your eyes and you're visualizing, you're in that space. The person leading you is talking and saying, like, what do you see and what are you feeling? And you're immersively experiencing this space, and it's just you're feeling calm and peaceful and just safe. That's really good, right? At some point they usually say, would you like to invite God into this space? Sometimes people are like, no thank you, I do not. Other times it's like, absolutely, come here, God. So God comes into the space. For myself, it's usually like sitting right next to me, but so they'll say, where is God in this space? God's across from me in my kayak, and we're holding hands, and I feel safe. Okay, cool. At that point, the person leading you might say, hey, is there somewhere that God wants to take you? I remember someone that I was leading in this style. Suddenly they were transported to the ocean, and they were looking out at the ocean. And I didn't know this, but for this person, the coast and the ocean had specific meaning. And so we start to talk about, like, what are you feeling? What are you seeing? What does this mean? And you're starting to like process like specific feelings and so on. For myself, the last time I did formational prayer, it was related to just very deep rooted shame that I felt from the verbal abuse I experienced. And in that time of healing and prayer, God showed me that my heart was broken. God showed me how He could heal my heart, and that God did in fact heal my heart, and then put this new living, breathing heart inside of my body, and showed me even more things. But it was this like amazing experience that allowed me to accept the love of God. And the reason why I was even in the session of prayer is that I had had a night terror that was awful, and I could barely function. And what God did was heal my heart and make me feel safe. So I hope that that's a little bit interesting to you. For more traditional things, you guys can Google things called EMDR. EMDR, I've never personally had this type of trauma help for myself, but I do know people who've had it. And typically what EMDR, the premise of it is, and I learned this from a book I had read called, The Body Keeps the Score, and I highly recommend it. It can be a hard book to read because it talks about different kinds of trauma and different kinds of healing and trauma. So the first time I read it, I didn't have significant trauma, so it wasn't hard. Now that I've had significant trauma, it has been a little bit harder for me to hear, but I'm still getting stuff out of it. So EMDR, what it does is it usually have like these vibrators that are in each of your two hands that are distracting your physical senses, so that as you're processing a very painful memory, your brain doesn't go as deep into it, and so it's not as scary and it's not as hard for you to feel what happened in that time, and for you to even step outside of it as an observer and see what's going on and maybe process that experience in your life. For myself, according to my counselor, I did something like EMDR when I went camping by myself. I was in a canoe. I had been listening to a book that was upsetting me, and I would be in my boat thinking about the memory that had happened, like of something horrible that had happened to me. And I was kayaking left, right, both of my hands were engaged, and I'm just like kayaking, saying like, this memory was awful, I can't believe this thing happened, why would this person do this, and like, it was so awful, it was so horrible. And I'd stop and be like, and just be crying and like, oh, this is horrible. And then I like wipe my tears, and I'd be like kayaking and be like, and I don't understand why this and why that. Before my trip, I actually was barely getting by, barely surviving, because of just emotionally speaking with what happened. I actually couldn't even feed myself. I didn't have the energy to like make food. So people were dropping off meals for me. And when I came back, I felt so much better because I did process a lot of really traumatic things. I didn't know that I was doing that, and I don't recommend processing trauma on your own. You need help and safety and support. You need a friend there, possibly if you're praying, your counselor there. So please consider processing trauma, and know that it looks different for everybody, but you can heal from it. You can heal. There's a chance of a new life, and I've experienced it. It's so worth it. So thanks for listening, friends, and I'll talk to you later.